I bet. And it's interesting because it really rolls right into the series we're in, which is grief and gratitude. And I don't know if this is the story that you want to share.
It's a little it fast forwards a little bit. A little bit.
Okay, okay, because everything that you're describing now, you're talking about the sorrow of your particular childhood and how you've arrived at a place of actually being grateful for having gone through those things. And of course, we would never sign up for the hard things.
Oh,
We
no,
just
no,
never would. So
no.
what's your time of grief?
So my time of grief, and this is the last experience of grief that I
Mhm.
that I've had that really like flipped, um, changed my life and into it started the positive
Okay.
when I was 15. 15 years old. I was still going to junior high over there in Mexico, and I remember I was telling you that I was a complete jerk back then, and so but I still had a good rapport with some of the teachers and whatnot, but I had done like the last straw. I had like I did the last thing that they were willing to handle or take, and so I pissed them off, and the principal of the school um decided that they wanted to expel me from the school. And fortunately, my dad went to bat for me, and fortunately, the guy, the principal of the school, he happened to be related to us. So so my dad went in there, and he talked to him. He's like, "Hey, please don't expel him." And in Mexico, I don't know if I don't know about over here, but we have day school and night school.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so because there's not that many schools or whatever, so
Okay.
you go to school from 8 in the morning to 2 o'clock, and then the night school is from 3 o'clock to like 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
And so my dad was like, send him to night school, and just please, like, and so when I heard that I had to go to night school, like, I was like, screw that. I was like, I don't want to go to night school, like I want to. Yeah, I was so pissed off because um and I was sad, and that broke my heart. It was because like out of I had gone through so many things in my childhood, and between like again like all the stuff that I went through with and my dad and my stepmom, and having to have a new family and not wanting the new family. And the way I looked at it was the one good thing that I had in my life was
Ah,
my classmates, my friendship with them, and having and being able to play soccer with them, and just bullshit, and like they were like to me, they were like it was like my happy place, you know.
right.
And again, I get to I would get to misbehave with with these guys and whatever. Um, but yeah, and then they promised me, like they're like, hey, well, look, if you behave for the next, 4 months, there's 4 months into the school year, we'll put you back in the morning.
Oh,
And
so you had to actually go to night school for 4 months?
so I went to night school for 4 months,
Oh, okay.
and so I was like, okay, and I remember talking to myself in my mind. I was like, okay, look, I was like, I'll behave for the 4 months, and then I can go back to being the freaking kid I was before. Right? So so finally, yes, I go to night school and I'm behaving, and I'm really trying hard to pay attention in school and be nice and do what I'm supposed to be doing. And I do. I make I turn a 180.
Wow.
But what I don't realize, and like obviously I look back today and I know why, is that but the more you try to do something, you become it, like
Ah,
like it or not. And at the end of the 4 months, school year's over, and then we go back to, and then we have summer break, and then we go back to school, and the jerks, they didn't put me in the same class, they put me in another classroom. So now I'm like, son of a gun, I'm like, I still get to go back here, but I'm not going to the class, I'm not going back to school with my friends. So I had to make new friends again. And but regardless, like once I was there, like my ways of doing things were start had changed drastically.
Ah,
I was a nicer kid, and I was a little more open, and I was a little more soft. I was a lot softer, and I was a little more gentle to people. Even my, I was gentle. I was more gentler to my family, to my stepmom and to my steps,
wow.
and how my guard and my bitterness and like in the my experience with my with the new family that I had with my dad and his wife and everything, like all of that, I started to change, and I started and my guard of being like wanting to just like be a jerk to them, it like it came off. And I started I a lot of good came from it, and that's when I started like doing a little more self-help and a little more like self-motivating things. And what do I, who do I want to become, who do I want to be as I continue to grow older, and what is it going to take to be better, and just, yeah. And then once I went to high school, I mean, I was a completely different kid. And
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
but that was a huge turn, because to me it was like the last thing that I was like, I'm like in my kid mind, if I put myself back there, I'm like, seriously, it's like I've gone through all this bullshit since I was a little kid, and over again something keeps on, trying to torment me, or take something away from me, or piss me, or like. And now, like, I've the one thing that I've enjoyed since, living over here with my dad, and this is getting taken away from me. So that was like, it was like I died. It's like a big part of me died.
Right. Right.
Part of me died, and I just had to let it go and change. But I didn't look at it like that. I just gradually changed.
Right. Gosh, I find it just so fascinating that it took, and I think that's just so true of us as people, that sometimes it takes this really difficult, hard, challenging, painful time, but not everybody sort of pivots. I mean, you through that course of those 4 months, you changed yourself. I mean, you decided to change yourself.
Well, it's again, and in my mind, I wasn't trying to change. My mind, I was like, I'm gonna pretend to be a good kid, so I can go back to, so I can get what I want, so I can get back
Right.
what I lost.
So it just kind of it actually you sort of pretended your way into being it.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. It's that kind of act as if sort of philosophy, like you were acting like you were a good kid, and then the next thing you know, you are one.
I'm like, damn it, I'm a good kid now. You
Oh
know?
my gosh.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, that's just amazing. The power of the mind and, behaving your way to something different.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty crazy how that happens. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's I look at it now, and again, like that's where the boat turned for me. And I remember
Right.
those are some interesting years, like just because again, I had so much fun with, growing up back then with my friends, and the camaraderie, like growing up for me, I didn't grow up with my mom, I grew up
Mm-hmm.
with my dad. And in that experience, I didn't, my dad wasn't like the warmest,
Mm-hmm.
affectionate kind of person. I knew my dad loved me, and
Right.
he did everything he could to try to be both parents, be the mom and the dad at the same time, because, especially over the culture in Mexico, I don't know how it is, over here, but like, like my stepmom, she had such a hard time being like a warm maternal figure too. For
Uh-huh.
but I don't know, it's interesting because, like, I have my stepsisters, I recall them, them having their issues with their mom, and
Mm,
having, you know, not getting that maternal feeling from her growing up either.
right.
And so I looked back and I'm like, well, shoot, like if they weren't getting it, me that I'm not her son, like how am I gonna get it?
Right, right.
You know?
Yes. Right. And it sounds like, and earlier you mentioned that you've forgiven everybody. So you've arrived at a place of being able to realize that your mom, your dad, your stepmom, everybody was doing the best they could do at that time with
Oh,
who they were and where they were at. And but it wasn't everything you wanted and needed at all.
no. And like, when I was a kid, I looked at all these people, all these adults, as everyone is like their own, I guess. And if I look at, if I'm being honest, like everyone looks perfect.
Mm,
So everyone, like, you have, like, you're an adult, you have, and you have a job, and you have it together, so you should be able to take
mm-hmm,
care of it, you
mm-hmm.
should be able to figure out how to get me through childhood, teenage years, and all that stuff, like.
Right.
And now that I'm an adult and I'm going through the stuff that I'm going through, I'm 31 years old, and and I'm like, well, shoots. I mean, I know people that are my age that, they already have their 5, 7 year olds, and I know them, and they're not perfect at all. And
Right.
and then
Right.
and at the same time, I look at my dad, I look at my uncle, my aunt, like everybody that I looked up to when I was growing up, and everybody that had authority, the over, that have over being, when you're a child. I look at them and I'm like, wow. It's like you're not this perfect person that I set you out to be.
Right.
And you have all these things that you haven't even overcome, and you got 25 years or 30 years ahead of me.
Right.
So like
Exactly.
I was like, we're not perfect, and we're just
Right.
trying to do it. Like you said, we're trying to do our best to do what we can with the little ones, and that's why. And again, like I'm so grateful that I've gone through from 24 20, yeah, it's from like 24 years old to 28, 27. I went through a lot of healing, a lot of, I had a bitterness with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And probably, if out of all my relationships, the biggest bitterment is from that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through so many cycles with her of like anger and frustration and hate and sadness and fear, all of them, all the and any negative emotion that can possibly that you can think of that can impact you in a bad way and can hurt you. I had it with her,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to heal it.
That's incredible. And you did that on excuse me, you did that on your own, right? Through your own
I
journey.
mean,
So,
through I looked at, fortunately, we live in an age where you're able to like look for sources on the internet.
yep.
Because obviously, I mean, I don't have the finances to be able to. I never had the finances to be able to go to a counselor, or I don't know, none of that. Like, and so I looked up stuff, and I remember, I don't know if you remember, I told you my experience with my sister about how I
Yes.
was able to help her out, and in helping her out, I found ways to help myself out,
Mm.
heal these problems. And
Mm-hmm.
again, with my stepmom and that stuff, like I forgave her, and I even like I've had my apologies. I've made my apologies to her for, being the jerk that I was,
Right.
and and that's it, and again, and now when I look back at all these things, like as I continue to make, as I continue to write this project that I was telling that I'm sharing you,
Right. Right.
um, I'm making sure that I share how I felt, and at
Mm.
the end of each song, letting the story know that I let go.
That's so important. That's so important and it's so impactful. And I'm extraordinarily impressed that you have chosen to do this on your own. It's not like this was an assignment for a class or whatever. You're like, no, I'm going to do this thing.
One of the reasons why I'm doing it, is because, for the longest time I've spent, my time working with music just to have fun with it because I love
Right.
music and I love doing it, and I've just been trying to write music about, the common like thing of like, we like, I like a girl, and talking about how I feel about the girl, and how I want to, impress the girl, or how my experience with the girl. But like, I have never really written my story. And I was talking to my uncle, a couple months ago, and we've talked about this for over like a couple of years. My uncle and I have had the conversation about, if I really want to connect and build my own following, I have to write my experiences, so people can relate. It can't just be. And so the reason why I'm going back to all this stuff is because it's for me, but maybe someone else out there is going through what I've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know that it's okay to feel what they're feeling,
Yep.
that it's important to face it so you can let it go.
Yes. Yes. That is fabulous. Important
But
to face it so you can let it go.
Yeah, and so I want anyone that has gone through what I went through to know that they're not alone,
Right.
and that they're not alone, that I've gone through it, and that they can listen to this and be like, wow, like, I'm not alone in this journey, and I feel like I can
Right.
use my story to be able to help others.
Right. Is that kind of the advice that you somebody or like what advice would you give somebody who's grieving? That they're having they have sorrow for whatever situation they find themselves in.
I would say, that you have to face it. You have
Okay.
to face it. You have to feel it. You have to you have to go through that discomfort.
Hmm.
Um, and the quicker you can relax into it and let it come in and feel the feelings, um, and you do it with grace, like it,
Hmm.
you'll feel discomfort and you'll be pissed off and you'll be angry and all that stuff, but just let it be. Um, it's okay to feel those things. It's okay
Right.
to express it. It's okay to express it, seriously. Like, especially if you can find someone that has nothing to do with in it, or if you just want to write it down or whatever it is. But like,
Right.
and I know a lot of people, they have their own thing, their own way of facing their things. But I guess ultimately too,
Hmm.
um, I've gone through, I've worked through meditation to do this.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a tool. That's very good.
the meditation at the end of the day is the ultimate component of me being able to let this go,
Hmm.
because I want to. And
Right.
whatever you believe in, you know, and whatever if you believe in God, or if you believe in
Right.
higher power, if you believe in, for me, I'm I'm a God believer and
Yeah.
Jesus believer. So,
Yeah.
when I started studying the stuff with the guy Joe Dispenza that I told you about years ago,
Uh-huh.
and I've practiced his work. I love his work because he's doing this work and teaching us how to use this tool, and telling you
Mhm.
how it affects your body, and how like literally, if you do the work, it'll change your genetic expression. It'll change how your body is, approaching things. And the coolest thing is that, you sit there, and the more you do it, you're not changing. Someone else is doing the change for you.
Wow.
You-
Wow.
you're showing up, and you're getting out of the way.
Ah, yes.
And so you come to this meditation, and you say, God, or whatever it is, this is what I've been.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm going through, and this is how I've been facing it. I don't want to face it like this anymore.
Right,
And
right,
and this is how I want to be. This is how I'm,
right.
but you don't but and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, that's very
And
good.
but
And say that name again, because I want to really be sure I include that name. The
Joe,
name of
Joe Dispenza,
Joe Dispenza.
yeah, Joe, and then last name Dispenza.
Hey, okay. All right. Very good. Nice little shout out for Joe there.
Yeah, no,
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
he's a big influence in my life when it comes to the work that I've been doing, and it's brought me a lot of peace and awareness. And it's funny because like it's allowed me again to develop things that
Hmm.
life that I wasn't developed that I hadn't been able to develop because of all the chaotic stuff that I
Hmm.
was thinking of.
And we need each other. We need help and support and encouragement and inspiration for all of that. We don't live in little caves by ourselves. I mean,
Oh,
we're made and meant for community, whether that's, family or friends or both or whatever that looks like, your people, whoever those people are.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so lastly, what would you say, like you've reached a point of being able to be grateful for having gone through the experiences because of where you are now. You've
Mhm.
reflected back, you've realized, oh my gosh, if it weren't for all those hard things, I wouldn't be where I am, who I am, all of that.
Right.
What advice would you give somebody to kind of practice or cultivate gratitude?
I started with a few things. Um, so I would say if whoever's open to it, sit down and do a 10-minute meditation.
Mm, okay.
And to start and to be able to and to start it, because I know it's hard, and I remember I think I sat down, and I would in the beginning I would sit there and I close my eyes, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I just and I've been sitting there and looking into nothingness, and then obviously you're sitting there, and all of a sudden all the thoughts come in, and you're like, oh, I
Right,
gotta go do this, or I want to go do this, or what about this? Oh, well, that's an interesting thought. And so like all these things come up to you.
right.
Um, and so that made it hard, but I just kept on trying every once in a while. Like every 2, 3 days I'd do it, or every day, and then I heard this thing that Tony Robbins would do, and
Yeah.
that was really cool. And it helped me because it helped me focus my mind on something.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do 10-minute meditation of three I would do three things that I was grateful for.
Okay.
Um,
That's getting a little more specific, right? Not so open-ended.
yeah, and so I would spend like the first 2, 3 minutes on three things that I was grateful for. I'm grateful that I can walk. I'm grateful that I can speak. I'm just grateful that I and you every time you say, when I would say, okay, well, I'm grateful that I can walk. What are the things that I'm able to do because I walk?
Ah,
And you see yourself doing the things that you're able to do because you're able to walk. You know, like
right,
going on a run, like playing soccer, uh,
right,
kicking a ball, or I don't know, anything. And then I'd get to the next, and then I go to the next thing that I was grateful for, and I'd come up with what are the things that I'm able to do because of it.
right. I like that.
Then the other three things that I would do, it would be what three people that you're grateful for in your life. Um, and then I would bring up the person that I was grateful for, and what are the things that they do in my life that make me feel grateful for them.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
beautiful.
and so doing that with each person, and then
Yeah.
last three, I would do one more segment of three things that I want to accomplish.
Okay.
And what are those three things? What would those three things look like if I did them? If I succeeded in doing them? And that was that was so easy. It made it
Oh,
sit there, it made it so easy to be able to sit there because now I have something to focus on. And it's a little easier to get my mind to not wander.
right. I like that. I'm going to try that. I'm going to take it
It's
and
really
try
nice.
it.
It's
That's
really
wonderful, Brian. Oh my gosh, this has been such a great conversation. Where can people find you?
yes, you guys can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Brian Santana Music. Um, if anyone wants to find me, just in general,
Right,
um, go to briansantana.com,
right.
and that has all my information, has my music, has um my performances on over here in Hawaii, um,
Hmm.
any new stuff that I got going on. My social media's in there, so if you don't want to,
Right,
if you have a hard time finding me, you can go on my website, and my website has all that stuff.
right. And that's why I find out where you are when we go over. I'm like, where's
Awesome.
he playing? Where's he playing?
Yes.
Brian,
And
this has been so, oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
one more thing that I want to say,
Yes, please.
since I'd like to utilize your platform to be able to
Yes, please.
uh I've been going through an issue for like the last year.
Okay,
I I got involved with what happened, the bombing that happened with the Palestinians last year,
okay,
and I shared a message from a friend of mine that is Palestinian that lives in Hawaii,
okay,
and through trying to spread the awareness that he was sharing of the bombing that happened. Basically the what I shared was pro-life Palestinians, pro-life,
okay.
to the innocents that were getting that were in the middle of it.
Right.
And I pissed off someone that is in power.
Oh, goodness.
And this person got me fired from one of the hotels that I play at, from the Yondas Hotel. And he just came after me at the Grand Wailea, and I'm not playing at the Grand Wailea right now. So, and
Oh,
I just want to say that it's sad to see that people that have that kind of power are able to do stuff like that. And
mm,
like if there's anyone that knows anything that is maybe someone knows this person. This guy works for Cisco Systems,
mm-hmm.
and his name's I even forgot his name because I'm so over it. Um, Turovsky, Barack. His name's Barack Turovsky. He works for Cisco Systems,
Okay.
the VP of AI for them. And I'm hoping someone can reach out to him and basically talk to him and say, hey, I'm sorry this hurt him, and I'm sorry that this
Oh,
it was never in my intention to to offend people that are Jewish or whatever it is that I pissed them off on. And hopefully they can let it go and repair what they've already
right.
done to me. And pretty much that.
Well, I think it's really commendable that you are looking to make this right. I think, a lot of times like you said, that was not your intention. Your intention was to help shine a light on the innocent people, and you weren't trying to take a political stand per se. You were trying to be helpful to people who are caught in the crosshairs, the crossfire, right?
Yep.
And gosh, things can just get so divisive. They really can. And so I thank you for taking a moment to bring that to our attention.
Yeah.
And
And
you're
I tried to reach out to the person and apologize because it's been happening behind my back. He's never once like reached out to me.
mm,
So I tried to send a letter through his social media,
right.
but it was just ignored. So
Oh, goodness.
I think that someone that is in his level of rank of power that can speak on my behalf and just
Right.
seem to let it go.
Right.
So
Well, thank you. That's a very humble position and a vulnerable position to put yourself in to say, hey, I said this was my intention. I never meant it to be offensive or divisive. And I really want to make it right. I think that just speaks volumes about your character, Brian. So thank you so much for letting us know about that. And we know where to find you. I know where to find you. And so I'm so grateful for this time. Thank you so much, Brian.
This opportunity.
Thanks for being with us again. Sure appreciate you.
Yeah, me too.